Hello, Hell Rats. Welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC YouTube. I'm your host tonight, Southern Cal. On tonight's show, we are going to be swinging the pendulum way over to the heavy side of things tonight, and I'm really down for this. Um, we're going to talk with the pride of Melbourne, Florida, lead singer from the band Bodysnatcher, Mr. Kyle Medina. Welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. I always love to do podcasts. I think they're super fun. They let me talk a lot, so it's cool.
That's what we're looking forward to.
Yep.
Hey, I don't want to get into too much heaviest stuff right away, but just a little fun fact here. Chicago has its deep dish, and Cleveland has its steamers. Pittsburgh has its platters, but Rochester, New York, has the garbage plate. And recently, Kyle enjoyed his very first garbage plate. So, if
Yeah.
you're in the know, you're in the know. If you're from Rochester and maybe from our area, you know what we're talking about down here.
Yep.
So. You guys have been really busy out on the road this year. You were over in Europe. You guys put out the EP.
hmm
You got a couple more tours going on. There was some kind of some news that hit close to home, and that was the talking about of the stabbing up in Nashville.
Oh
The
yeah,
guys
dude.
from No Cure.
Yep.
Just not stuff you want to hear about, and hopefully it doesn't give things a bad name. There's
Yeah.
violent tendencies when you're in a circle pit or you're in a crowd and things like that, but no one's
Right.
ever looking to kill each other.
No, for
So
sure no.
big city crimes, I guess. And you
Yeah.
hit a little close to home. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. You guys are on the road a lot. Have any incidences like this ever happened with Body
Uh,
Snatcher?
Not particularly. Like we never really we pretty much stay very neutral, and especially when it's like if anything is going on outside of a venue, we're like, yeah, we're gonna avoid that. I'm not super particular on what happened with those guys. I think what ended up happening was there's a fight out after the show, and you just never want to involve yourself in something like that because it can put you in a very not good situation. But
Oh,
that
very,
sucks.
very quickly. Yeah, that'll
Oh yeah.
a lot of things going on. So you mentioned there's like a merch dump going down for that. So keep an eye out if you throw some support to this guys and for their medical costs. So
Oh yeah, that's a pretty serious one. I think the singer, I think he got stabbed in his I want to say somewhere on the leg and it missed his femoral artery, so he could have bled out. That was pretty bad. And then I think I want to say it was the guitar player. I think he got it worse,
yeah,
which
right in the gut.
oh that's I couldn't even imagine, dude. But like you said, they put out some merch, so I think everybody's pretty much rallying behind them because they've been gaining a lot of traction and they've been touring a lot. So I think they're just
That's what it takes sometimes. You
yeah.
hear these stories. Some guys, all their equipment gets stolen and all sorts of stuff.
Oh,
So that's what that's for. So if you can support them, throw some love their way, we'd appreciate that.
of course.
So, like we said, you've been on the road a lot. You guys were over in Europe, and I happen to
hmm
notice. I'm pretty sure you guys played a show on a barge.
Yeah. Yeah, we did. We played a show on a barge. I guess it's a yearly thing for them. I'm not really too sure, but they it was in I believe I want to say either I don't think it was the Netherlands. I want to say it was like Slovakia or something, some country like that. But our friends, we've toured with them a couple times. They're called Distant, and they were also on the show. And it was like a little festival. It was us, Distant, and then I think like 10, 15 other local bands. And it was like like I said, it's like a yearly thing. So it's like this barge that's like parked on their dock, and it's pretty interesting. I've never seen something like that.
Yeah,
So
I thought that was. I've never seen anything like that either. Did
never seen that.
were life jackets issued for the safety of everyone
I don't think
while
so,
on
which
board?
I think it definitely should have been, I think.
As long as
But
it stayed docked, right?
yeah, it was a great show. Like I mean, I was when we pulled up, I was like, "No way are we doing this right now?" But it ended up being a pretty good show. I mean, it was like 600 people on this little on the barge, and we played on the top deck and as well as distant, and then there was another section of bands that were playing below. Like they were playing in like it was pretty interesting. It was like outside was like an outdoor venue, and then the the deck below was like a full inside venue. Like it was pretty interesting looking. I've never seen anything like
Yeah,
that.
I was amazed. I studied that picture for quite some time,
I
just
was
checking
like,
everything out. So yeah,
what the
that's,
hell is going
hey, you
on?
know
Yeah,
what?
it's pretty funny. It's awesome though.
If you can pull that off, that's what it takes. Sometimes that's what it takes. So
Oh yeah, kudos, man. I've seen well, especially like not only just being in the States, like obviously we've played anywhere from Uncle Lou's in Orlando to, House of Blues, California. Like we've played smallest to pretty big venues, and it's like I've seen pretty much everything where it's like, oh well, by day this is a, whatever shop, and by night it's a
yeah,
venue. So
right.
it's like,
Multi-purpose.
yeah, I think if it's that's what it takes to get it done, it's pretty cool. I like the ingenuity of some people and like the, I don't know, it's respect, and like especially like just booking shows in itself is like so stressful. Like that's why anybody like I did a couple shows a couple years back. I was promoting like a couple, local, either whether it be metalcore bands or just even just death metal bands. I did a couple shows, and it was so stressful. I couldn't even imagine doing it like, because I have friends that do it like full time, and then I have friends that book them pretty regularly, and I'm like, dude, I don't know how your stress you're just able
Sure.
to put yourself through such tremendous stress. You know what I mean? I
There's a lot
couldn't
of
do that.
upfront money that needs to go out and things like that.
Oh yeah, that, and then it's like the risk is like, obviously, even if you know everybody and you're familiar with everybody around, it's like, guys, like my neck is on the line with this because
Oh
I gotta
yeah.
pay for it. You don't have to pay for it. I do. You know what I mean? So that's what was real stressful about that. But I do like when there's situations like that where it's like, well, the only place we can book is on this barge. We own it, and then or oh, I own this, we can do it in this guy's basement, and it's like it's crazy when you're able to make stuff like that happen. I think it's cool.
That's kind of like our local place, traditionals there,
Oh yeah.
where you have the opera you can go see and show. You can get a shave, and you can get a
Yep.
beer, and you can go right next door to the skate shop. Rob
Yep.
and Beck are just multitasking over at that
Yo,
place,
I couldn't
and
imagine.
they have the first Friday they have down there. They have the Bazaar there over at the opera. So
Yeah.
they're keeping everything rolling along, which is
Uh,
cool. I think that's pretty cool.
oh yeah, especially with that being like the one venue around here, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's like the one last like metal venue aside from Winfield's. There's Winfield's Beachside does some
Yep.
shows.
Unfortunately, Dave or James Cripps is retiring. He's got 3 more shows, and he says
Oh,
he's done as the promoter. So, I've
dang,
talked to
yeah.
him about promoting a lot too. Metal Mayhem promoted 2 shows.
Hmm.
They lost 500 on the first one, but it's $500 to be a fanboy. And then on the second one, I think they made $25. Everybody got paid,
Yep.
and
Oh
so
yeah.
it was fun. So I think James is just the stress of it all and all the upfront monies that go into
Oh
it
yeah,
and
man.
things like that. But they're going to still be continuing on, hopefully, with the gigs they bring in there. They got
Yep.
Burning Witches is coming up there, Kill
Hmm.
Devil Hill and Black Flag. So some good
Wow.
stuff coming around. And that's just to fill out his docket for the end of the year. So
Oh yeah. I remember when I was booking shows, I was booking at there's a Palm Bay VFW. I believe it's still there. It's over by the, drawing a blank. I think it's Dairy Road. If I'm not mistaken, I think
it could be.
it's like a little blue and red VFW, and then it was the Knights of Columbus, and it's over by that dealership on Dairy Road.
Yeah,
I
I
booked a
remember
couple
that
shows
place.
there. I booked a couple there, but that was like, oh my gosh, like they were just like, not that they had a problem with the shows at all, because they didn't have a problem with the shows happening. It's just like they, and I understand everybody's got to make money, but it was like every time I would be like, hey, I'm looking to book another, rock show here, blah blah blah, and it's like 400 or 500 bucks every time, and then I'm like, oh, now I gotta. Not only is it the 400 or 500 bucks to get the room, but then it was like, okay, now I gotta seek out these bands, see what sort of compensation they want as well. And then it was like, it would put me not necessarily in the hole, but it definitely was like a punch in the gut to go, oh, I this is all riding on this show. But I did that and kind of the bigger rooms, and those shows did okay. But then towards the end of my time booking, where I was like, oh, I'll keep that in mind, was I remember one of the last times I was there, one of the guys that was just working for the uh I guess you'd say the hall or whatever. He was like, "Oh, we have a smaller room, right?" And I was like, "No, I didn't
Now you're
know."
telling me.
And he's like, "Well, it's you're paying like 300-400 bucks for this room. This one's only $100." And I'm like, "Dude, why'd you do that?" Like, you know what I mean? But it's water under the bridge, but it's definitely I think it's cool when anybody is like, "Yeah, I'm booking shows," for a while we had the Boondocks. That was like years ago. I don't remember if I don't know if you remember that venue. That was the Boondocks.
I don't remember that.
That was over by Sarno. So do you know where there's an antique mall. It's a big antique mall. There's a McDonald's
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the parking lot.
The
Okay,
old
so
lion or whatever it was, food
yeah, so
lion.
so there used to be a record shop in that plaza. I'm not sure if the record store is still there, but next to the record store there was a venue, and actually Sam, the owner of, is it Salty Fox? Is that the
Oh,
bar
downtown
in
O'Galley.
O'Galley?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Sam booked one of the first, like, if we're saying like official first venue show that we ever played was at the Boondocks in Melbourne, and it was at that venue, and Sam booked us. So it's like every time I go in there, I say hi to Sam. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what's up, dude? Like, she quite literally made, like, I was like, what, 17 years old when we were a band, like when we first started, and that was like the first shows we ever played was there. So that's always interesting when I see that plaza. I'm like, I remember that. I remember playing shows there. It's crazy.
They got a wicked slot car track place in there.
Yeah, I did see
Go
that.
do
I've
some
seen that
slot car
before.
racing in there. So, what do you think about the scene here in Melbourne? I see it as growing
Oh yeah, it's
from when
definitely
I
growing.
first came here, and it's like a little pocket, kind
Hmm.
of starting here, and just more and more and more you see in gigs here and things like
Hmm.
that. Tony Foresta does a lot of
Yep.
things over here. He brings Paul in from Cannibal, which is nice. He made the trip
Yep.
over here, just shows like that, and they're getting ready to do the. It's like a
Kind of.
punk in the park kind of thing. A
Yep.
lot of good bands on there, and Tony's putting all that together. So,
Hmm.
what's your views on the scene here in Melbourne, Florida?
I think it's awesome. I grew up, so I know I'm so I grew up going to a lot of the hardcore, death metal, deathcore, just all those genres, whatever. I grew up going to a lot of those shows. There was a venue called the JC's. It was over by BCC, which is now
Eastern
Eastern
Florida.
Florida
Yeah.
State. But there was if you go down there, it's still there. The building is still there. It's just now it's owned by, like, I think the city owns it. But I used to go to shows there, and that was when I was probably all of my high school years for sure. But I was quite young, and then back then it was crazy because I feel like it was definitely really popping. There was a lot of like heavier style like bands around here, and I don't know what happened. It's like that venue closed, and then there was a venue that was, the promoter was actually sorry, my cat is
That's
like,
all. He's fine.
she's she's doing whatever.
She's going to be
Um,
worldwide here in a minute.
yeah, it's pretty funny. I think she's all hyped right now. Her eyes are all big right now, so she's wanting to run around. But there's a there was a church behind the, I believe, the CVS on is it Aurora? I believe it's Aurora and Wickham. So there's like an
Yep.
intersection, there's a CVS. There was a church back there. It's still there, but there was a promoter that I guess was like a kid that attended the church there at the time, and he booked shows through a booking company called Seraph Nation, and that was like they brought a ton of bands there. I saw a ton of really cool bands back in the day there. This was probably, now when I really think about it, this is probably like 13, 14 years ago, which is crazy to think, but I remember that venue, and then they eventually were like, okay, no more of this, no more, we don't want this here anymore. And then after that, it was like those two venues kind of stopped being a thing, and then it died for a while, and then the Boondocks came around, and then we started playing shows, and there was, not to say that we're the only band that was from around the area, but there was some bands that were kind of going around at that time, and then the Boondocks was a new place for all these bands to go, and there were shows there for a few years, and I felt like that was a good resurgence. And then unfortunately Sam was like, hey guys, I can't take the number one, the stress, and also the financial. You're booking these shows, and like, yeah, it's you're doing something awesome for like the music scene, but at some point you're like, I'm kind of in the hole here, guys. Like it's a big room. It's a lot
Even
to.
when the bands get on and they're playing, the promoter still he
Oh
can't
yeah.
even enjoy the show. He's
Mm-hmm.
still busy running around. Like just this past Friday, we went out to the Conduit in
Mm-hmm.
Orlando, and we
Yep.
saw Goat Whore out there, and our friend Peter Olin, the
Yep. I
promoter
love
there.
Peter. He's
I mean, that
awesome.
dude is just constantly. He was at the door. He's in the back room, in the green room. I even
Oh
saw
yeah.
him behind the bar serving up drinks. So it's
Oh
just
yeah.
there's no rest for all of that stuff. So
I couldn't
uh
imagine that stress, but I think the Melbourne scene, to get back to that question, I know I kind of went on a tangent
uh,
there, but I think the Melbourne scene is awesome. I think it is definitely growing and making a resurgence, which I
yeah,
think is awesome.
it's great to have people like Rob and Becca, with a place like the Abra to
Oh yeah.
have these shows, and at least, and they love the music too. So it's not
Yeah,
going
of
anywhere.
course.
That's awesome. Revolver Magazine, fall 2024 issue.
I
Talk to us about
know.
that, man, because the Revolver, that's a
I
grade A
know.
magazine. They've been around since I was a kid, man. Just
So crazy.
great
Yeah.
content always. And here you guys go, featured in the fall 2024 issue.
Yeah, that was crazy. So we do a lot of the we're under the Monarch label, which used to be called E1. And then basically we kind of put out feelers to our publicist because we got a new one through the label, and we basically told Monarch, we were like, "Hey, any physical like print media stuff, like we want to be in it because we just think that that's cool." And I think that's like every musician's dream anyway.
Right?
So it's like, we have so many friends that are in a lot of these magazines too. And we're like, how do we get in these? Like, how do we do this? And so our publicist reached out to a lot of different like outlets, and then we heard back from Revolver, and they were like, we would be interested in doing this piece or
Yeah,
whatever.
that's
So
awesome.
me and Chris did like I think it was like a good like hour and a half, 2 hour interview, and then the dude wrote it all down, and then I'm like, okay, well, hopefully it's not like the website is cool. Like I saw the whole article on the website, and that like kind of popped when I posted it, and I was like, it's crazy. And then my bandmate the other day was like, he posted it because he went and got it, and he like posted the pictures in our group chat, and I was like, holy crap, it's in the physical media. So I went to Barnes and Noble with my mom, and I was like, I want to go now. I want to go see if they have it, and it's in the physical pages. It's crazy. It's
Isn't that
like,
great? I'm a person who I'd much rather read a magazine just
hmm
because of my age and stuff like that. So I want to go to the store and buy a CD or an album. I want to go and get that
hmm
magazine and put it with the rest of my cool shit.
yeah,
So that's
I
awesome.
yeah, I love
Um,
the physical aspect of things because it's like a tangible piece. I like
yes,
that because with digital stuff, like, not to sound like you know, I don't know what the word would be. I guess catastrophic thinking, but it's like, you know, if everything shuts off tomorrow, it's like, what are you gonna do? You don't have a physic if you don't have the
right.
physical, aspect of it, it's gone.
If that
So,
cloud goes away, what are you going to do?
oh
I'm
no.
totally all about that. I have all my stuff up here in my studio. I
hmm
still display things proudly, but that's how I
Oh, I
grew
love
up.
it. I
There
love
was
that
no
stuff.
Spotify and things like that back in the day.
Right.
So
Right.
let's talk about this the new EP, Vile Conduct.
hmm
Um, I have to say, does it get confusing with three Kyles in the band? And do you call Chris sometimes Kyle just to break his balls?
I think more so everybody, there's a lot of fans that come out that definitely break his balls about it, but the whole three Kyles thing is that was such a non-planned thing. It was so interesting how that kind of fell in our laps because I filled in for a band a few years ago. I flew up north, and our bass player used to be in a band called Float Face Down
Yes.
from New Jersey. And so he used to play in that band, and they played a final "We're Done" show, and it was like a memorial show because their singer had died. So I flew up there. I sang with the band, which was crazy for me because I listened to that band in high school, and I got to talking with him, and he was like, "Yeah, I would love to tour again or be in another band if I could ever, do that. I miss it." And 2 or 3 months later, it just by the graces of just how shit kind of works out is that well, we went through a lineup change and he was like somebody that just kind of popped in my head because Chris played in another band called King Conquer and he had ended up joining. And then while we were thinking of people to fill the slots, I was like, I know this is a crazy idea, but what if we ask Kyle Shup from Float Face Down? And he was like, that'd be awesome. I know him from touring with King Conquer and blah, blah, blah. So he did a tour with us and he ended up joining. And then our guitar player at the time was kind of like, I think he kind of already was like, all right, I'm toasted. I've done the touring thing for a few years. I'm like done. So he was like on his way out. He ended up kind of exiting the band. And Chris had played in another band called Dealey Plaza. They're still a band. They're
Yep.
from South Florida. So they were both, Chris and Kyle Carter were both in that band at one point, like, simultaneously in the band. And so Chris goes, well, Kyle Carter used to play in another band as well called Beacons that we had played a ton of shows when we were like a local band. We used to play with that band all the time. And so I kind of already knew him, not super well, but I kind of already knew him from that band. So it was like kind of a no-brainer to where it was like, oh, well, why don't we just like take him because he's doing Dealey, but he really wants to tour and that band's not really touring anymore. So we took him and then it didn't really like hit me that we had three dudes named Kyle at that point until we were like, oh shit, we have three guys named Kyle now. And so we were like, okay, well we'll just do the last name thing. So we've been doing the last name thing for the past like 5, 6 years. It drives me insane. I hate the last name thing because I'm not like a very formal person, like I'm very lax. So like and when you call somebody by the last name, I feel like that's kind of like a formal thing anyway. So that's kind of how we like navigate that, but
That's
it's like
funny.
it drives me crazy. But yeah, the EP has been doing great. We went to Will Putney.
Will Putney,
He's
producer.
he's insane. He's done pretty much if you listen to metal and or like any of the core genres, like he's done everything. Like he has a essentially a guest mansion, and we go in there, and it's like the foyer of this place is like all just record. It's all the records that you would be like, wow, that was a really good record. I wonder who did that. And you go and look, and you go, oh, Will Putney. You know what I mean? It was like Acacia Strain Continent,
Right.
Kubla Khan, like all those Kubla Khan records. He's done. I want to say. I want to say he's done like some of the bigger death metal bands too. Hey, dude,
You know,
you got to stop that, dude. I don't know what you're doing, but you got to stop. Um, but yeah, no, it was quite an experience. And then also like the guy is so like professional and like I guess you would say in a sense kind of like legendary in our
sure.
line of work. So it's like a little intimidating because you're like, oh, what if this guy like, like he's watching everything, he's observing everything. So you're like, I hope we don't give him the wrong impression or the wrong idea of whatever, but he's super awesome and we were kind of afraid that he wouldn't be as hands-on, but he was so hands-on and wanted to work with us and like knew that we were he knew what we were supposed to sound like and what we should sound like and like basically he took the songs that we had already because we went in there with like obviously like an idea of what the songs we wanted them to be, but it was like he trimmed the extra fat and like was like, this is what I think of when I hear this band, and I think everybody else probably thinks the same thing. So you need to like make a statement and be like aggressive. You're a heavy band, like it's in your face. So like we trimmed all the extra fat and like he took parts and rearranged them and whatever in his own way, and it ended up being better than we even thought it was gonna be. You know what I mean? Like it
So
was one of those things.
he was offering his advice and his input, and you guys were acceptable to that.
Oh yeah, and it's kind of crazy because it's like when you have your songs and you're kind of not really necessarily set in your ways, but you're like, I really like how this sounds, and it's like kind of you don't want to change it, but it's like when you have a third opinion like that, as well as somebody that's like as decorated as that guy, you're like, oh well, maybe we should take his advice, and then it just came out
There's
better than I thought it was going to be.
nothing wrong with getting that opinion because sometimes it's different ears that are listening to something, and a lot of bands are just going to tell that guy, "You're just here to push the buttons." All right.
Hmm.
And hit
Oh yeah.
record and hit stop. And that's what you hear. But, these are the guy is there to produce the album. So,
Oh yeah.
and
You're going to a producer to have that opinion. You know what I
yes,
mean? It's like that's like it with anything. That's like if, for instance, you hire someone at your restaurant or whatever, and you're like, "Hey man, I'm here. I want to learn as much as possible." And you're like, "Okay, I'll teach you." And then they're just completely ears off to wanting to listen to your advice. And you're like, "Well, that's why you're here. Like you want to learn
yes.
and gain your wisdom, you know?"
Yeah, this guy's not just punching the clock, 9 to 5. He's actually there to do a job that he feels passionate about. So
Exactly.
it's nice to have a good producer like that.
Exactly.
All right, let's talk about the first song here, Murders. You had featuring Jamey Jasta of Hatebreed. You guys have
Yep.
toured with Hatebreed.
Oh yeah.
How was that experience having him in
That
there with you?
That was crazy because obviously like with all of the um subject matter of the band is like a lot of it is like very personal and like personal loss and whether it be friends or family, whether it be death or uh you know betrayal or stuff like that. Like a lot of it is always like very personal, and we all write lyrics in the band, and I think that's like something that is an asset because everybody's able to pool their life experiences and their subject matters and put it into the music. And so that song particularly was about Chris has suffered some like a lot of tragedy, honestly. Like his brother
Yeah.
had passed away from an overdose. This was 2 years now. And so we had that song Dead Rabbit, and that was about Adam, which I knew Adam as well. And then a year later, his sister had also passed away from the same thing. So essentially, that song was written about how, like, there's a lot of like big pharmaceutical companies that push a lot of things and they don't want you to get better. They just want to make the money off of you.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
um, there's a lot of like hardship and struggle that comes with a lot of stuff like that and a lot of pain and whatever. And so, as anyone would know, Hatebreed has been that's the subject matter of all their stuff for the past 25 years is that there's overcoming the struggle and it's like motivational stuff like just stuff that's very you got to pick yourself off the ground and dust yourself off and whatever. So it was like that was kind of like a no-brainer for us where we were like, well, who would we get on the song that would make an impact and then also like we feel like would fit? And it was like we were like, well, we could get Jamie from Hatebreed, and we had done that
Perfect.
tour, like you said. So we were like, we think he would be more of a more open to the idea of doing that. So we did that tour with Hatebreed, and then also we played Milwaukee Metal Fest, which he owns. He bought the rights for that. So we played that a year or two ago, and I had like a very brief conversation with him where I was like, "Hey, would you want to be on a track? Like we were thinking that maybe you would be a fit for it." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, man, just email me, blah blah blah." So we got the track done. We emailed him, and we were kind of half expecting like, he might flake, he might do it, and he ended up responding. He did it, and we were like, "Whoa, we just
Awesome.
got Jamey Jasta." And not only that, it's like I remember watching Headbangers Ball, like, and I would see him on there. So it was like, that's crazy for me. And then my dad was like, that was like some of the bands that I was shown when I was so young was like Hatebreed and Madball and Throwdown and Crowbar and all that stuff. So it was crazy to have that like full circle moment. But the real crazy aspect for me is that he's in the video. Like we were able to contact this guy Eric that we've done music videos with, and he lives up in the tri-state area, which is where Jamie kind of lives.
Yeah, Connecticut
So
area.
we were able to be like, hey, if you can be in this video, like we will set up everything, we'll pay you, we'll compensate you, whatever. And he ended up doing it, and then we got the part back, and we were like, this is it's so mind blowing. It's like, especially when you're kind of what's the word for it? You're not necessarily you're in disbelief still that it's able to happen. You're like, I can't believe that we made that work and that happened and he's in there and it all just kind of worked out that way, you know?
Well, obviously, Hatebreed is a headlining band. You
Mm-hmm.
guys are setting to do some headlining shows, aren't you
Mm-hmm.
already? See, it's when you grow up and you're watching a band like Hatebreed, and now here you are singing with Hatebreed,
Oh yeah.
it's a testament to how far Bodysnatcher has come in the past 10 years.
Oh
Um,
yeah, man.
you believe me, you guys are right up in there. I saw somebody kind of questioning, should Bodysnatcher be headlining? Well, you know what, dude? The word is yes for that one. That's
Yeah,
the
I
answer to
mean,
that. Maybe not all shows. It's nice when you can go out
mhm.
with these bands. We're going to talk about it here in a minute, and be out on the road with big bands like that. But to headline some shows, by all means, I think
Oh
you guys
yeah.
have reached that point for sure. You've earned it. That
Mhm.
point. It's not like it was given to you. So
Oh no, we had to fight and grind for that. It's like I make this analogy every time I talk about it. It's like growing in the music industry, and it's no dig to anybody in the music industry. It's just I think a lot of my peers would probably agree that it's like growing and grinding in the music industry is like climbing a ladder with an anvil tied to you while everybody is like grabbing onto your ankles and trying to hang on to you. It's
sure,
like the most impossible thing. And we did a headliner. So we've been trying to grow. I think this year we're pretty much primarily trying to grow. We had done a co-headliner with Spite. That was earlier this year, I believe. But my time just is so bad. Like I feel like it just all melts together. But we did a co-headliner earlier this year. And I think that was something a lot of people wanted us to do for a very long time with Spite. And that also proved a lot of people like behind the scenes wrong because they're kind of like, oh, well, is this band big? Is this band big? And we are quite big. And I think that tour did crush and it did a lot better than a lot of people know.
sure.
We're
Eyes are
we're
opening.
drawing in 1,000 to 1,200 people a night and we were switching off. And then, we did a headliner. Um, 2 years ago, we did a headliner. It was us. We took out Angel Maker. It was us, Angel Maker, Paleface Distant, and that was a sellout. We did a full sold out headliner tour, and that one was when I think when a lot of the people behind the scenes, as far as like managers or agents or these people that kind of not necessarily kind of try to keep us down or anything like that, but kind of doubting the size and the growth and progression is like you can't ignore the elephant in the room once it gets too big
Not
because then you're
anymore.
like, okay, the band's too big. And it's
Right.
like it's funny because even though we're a pretty heavy band and we have a lot of people that like us and think we're cool, there's a lot of people that think we're not cool. So it's like I always equate the music industry, and this is not me dogging on it at all because I do have a lot of friends in the music industry, but I feel like it's a big lunchroom, and like sometimes you're invited to the cool kids table, and then other times you're not. So you're like, all right, well, we're just gonna go sit with our friends over here, and once we get to the point where you can't ignore us over there, then we're gonna be at the cool kids table too. So that's what I think ends up happening if you stick around long enough, and all of the bands that are your competition break up, who else are they going to look to? They're going to look at you and be like, "Oh, well, that's the band that lasted. They outlasted all these
Yeah,
guys."
there's
And
a lot of like Cannibal Corpse,
oh yeah,
they're the
man.
survivors who are still
Oh,
doing it. So, and I feel
oh
you
yeah.
guys are the same way, but like
Mm-hmm.
you said, you can't ignore that elephant in the room anymore. And it's not so much
Mm-hmm.
that these are the cool guys, because these are the guys that really don't have a full view of the music scene. It's
Mm-hmm.
definitely peripheral here. And you
Oh
got
yeah.
to open their eyes up to see what's happening in the music business, and stay
Mm-hmm.
current with the music business.
Oh yeah.
Can't just phone that shit in anymore. So
No, you definitely can't. And I think it's gotten to a point now to where, um, not only have shows been doing better than I think they have in a very long time, but I think everybody's more hyper aware and they're kind of like you said, like you can't just phone it in anymore. Like I feel people are much more aware, and especially with social media, they'll be like,
yeah.
they'll go see a band play and they'll be like, these guys suck, and then everybody's like, whoa, I think so too. You know what I mean? It's like if you just phone it in and you just completely shit the bed, it's like you can't just do that anymore. You have to put the passion and play like you care, and it's like whether it's 1,000 people or it's 10 people, like you have to play the same way because
Yeah.
people will remember, and you never know who's there, man. Like seriously, like I
I've seen
remember.
that shows 10 people up to 2,000 people. And no matter what, these
Mm-hmm.
bands perform. I've
Mm-hmm.
seen your YouTube videos, and, big, nice, big crowds, and always a great show. You
Mm-hmm.
you can feel the emotion,
Oh yeah.
one of you guys coming out in the music, which is great.
Oh
So
yeah. One of my favorites is one of my favorite videos that we have, which there's a lot of good ones, but one of my favorite ones is the one there's a place in Cleveland, Ohio called the Foundry. And Leo, the sound guy there, he films every set and he'll put up like 5 or 6 cameras. And it's like a 300 cap room, but he'll mix the audio and it's awesome. It's all direct in. So it's like that's one of my favorite videos because whenever that video got uploaded, everybody was like, "Oh, this is so crystal clear." And like
right off the
it's
board.
direct audio, and you can hear that we're pretty decent live band. You know what I mean? It's like you can't hide behind anything. So it's awesome.
Well, I think you guys definitely have something to say in your music.
Hmm.
Hopefully, don't judge the book by its cover. Listen,
Definitely.
this is an audible thing, so listen to it,
Hmm.
before you go throwing some slants around and stuff like that. So
Yep.
you got some tours coming up to finish out the year. I believe Fit for an Autopsy is the first one coming up.
Yeah, so this year we have like I said, we did that co-headliner with Spite. That was a couple months ago. We did Europe with them, and then we came over to the States, did the same thing. So I actually leave, I would say probably the 13th is my last in-town day because I think we're gonna be practicing. And then I believe the first show is the 14th in Jacksonville. So that is us and Distant, but that's a routing dates.
That
And then
was a
we go
recently added show, correct?
Yeah, so we because I believe the tour starts up north, so we were like, well, we got to kind of pick up something. We don't want to just drive all the way up north and then,
There you go.
be out of some gas money. So we picked up some shows, but it's us and Distant, which they're also supporting, but it's Fit for an Autopsy, and then we're directly supporting them with Distant, Silosis from Europe, and then I believe Judiciary is also on the tour, which it's going to be a good one. I think that's all pretty big capacity rooms, 1,000, 1,500 cap rooms. So it'll be pretty big shows. I think there's some House of Blues on there, I think. And then other than that, I mean, we've crossed a lot of paths with Fit for an Autopsy. Obviously, they've been around for so long. We've played some shows, but we've never toured with them. So it's pretty cool that we're getting to tour with them. And then other than that, we have Christmas Burns Red in Pennsylvania, which is August Burns Red. They do like a yearly Christmas thing.
Yeah.
So it's August Burns Red, I believe Devil Wears Prada, and then I'm not sure if the mystery band has been unveiled yet, but I know exactly who it is, but obviously I'm not going to say if it hasn't been out. And then us, and then I think there's two other supporting bands, and then we haven't announced that, but we're gonna do support shows for that as well because we basically were kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place where we're like, well, do we fly to this show or should we like make something of it and play like 5, 6 shows? So we're gonna do that, and we're taking out some Florida bands for that, so it'll be pretty
Awesome.
cool.
Awesome.
Yep.
Lorna Shore is in there too, correct?
That is so we do January. So January is Stick to Your Guns with that's over in Europe. So we're flying back over to Europe. That's Stick to Your Guns, us. No Cure is on that tour, and then I believe there's a European band on that. And right after Stick to Your Guns, we go straight to Australia. So we don't even come back home. We literally go Stick to Your Guns straight to Australia with Lorna Shore. I think that's Lorna Shore, us to the grave, I want to say, and that's in February.
Is
So
this your first trip to Australia?
I've
First time
never
through?
been.
You got to
Yeah.
contact Tony. Those guys just finished up touring there, so you can get all the lowdown on the places to see while you're there.
Oh yeah. I wanna see well I know that there's a lot of like obviously you can do the picture with the koala, but I've seen a lot of like the like our friends were just over there not too long ago and they are taking pictures with like kangaroos and stuff. I'm like, that's so crazy. Like, obviously, you can go to a zoo that might have kangaroos here, but I'm saying like when you're in Australia, I feel like that's so
Sure.
it's just mind blowing.
It's
But
like moose walking around town in Alaska. That's just
yeah,
they're
that's
everywhere there.
crazy. I've never seen one in person. We've been to Canada quite a bit, but I've never seen a moose before. But I would love to see one, I think.
I say prepare for sold out shows in Australia. That
Oh yeah.
country is blowing up with bands that are rolling through there and they're all
Mm-hmm.
doing good. It's just like a total resurgent in the whole country. So we
Oh
like to
yeah.
see stuff like that. So
Oh yeah.
all right, Kyle, before we let you go, tell us your social medias. I want to find out more about Bodysnatcher. Where can I go to find out? stuff
Right.
about you guys?
So we are on pretty much every platform, I think. We're under Bodysnatcher Florida, I believe. Might be Bodysnatcher FL, but I believe it's Bodysnatcher Florida on Instagram. And then we have Facebook, obviously. You can find all of our music on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. I believe there might be some more musical outlets, but we're pretty much on all of them. We have a TikTok. We don't really we're kind of all like past that generation where we don't really know how to use it, but I will be saying on tour we have somebody on this tour that we're about to go out with Fit for an Autopsy that is they know how to use it, so hopefully we'll be putting out some content on TikTok, whether it's like fun or it's live direct audio show clips or whatever. They're going to help us build that. As far as my social media, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, on all that stuff. I think you could pretty much find it linked on the band's page. Like if you go to Instagram, you can find all of our handles on our band page. I think we're all tagged on there. Other than that, I mean, yeah, we're going out Fit for an Autopsy, and that is October, I want to say 14th through November 19th, and that's 2024. So, if you want to come catch us, it would be awesome. We think that we put on a pretty good live show. Other than that, I mean, we're going to be pretty much all over the States. I'm sure next year or the year after that, we tour constantly. So,
hey, that's a good thing. You guys are definitely a rising star in this business.
Thank you.
Can continue on for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. It was awesome having you on here, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you around town. Best of luck. Stay safe on this tour coming up.
Thank you.
And hope everything goes well for you.
Thank you. I had a blast being on here, so thank you for having me.
Thank you, Kyle. Hey, for Metal Mayhem ROC YouTube channel, I'm Southern Cal.
Metal for life. Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.